Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Isaiah. You might have seen me on TikTok. This is the whip. That's the motor. You might know me as It's Isaiah to me, or shit, maybe you don't know me at all. But this is the whip. It's a 07 Mazda 3. A lot of bolt-on stuff, but nothing crazy. I'm not gonna do a whole breakdown on it today. This is kind of its winter shape. I've got those wheels sitting right there. It has coils on it, but it's brazed completely right now. So as of right now, the car actually has the 2.0 in it, but we're doing a 2.5 Duratec swap in the car. It's a really common swap on these engines. You know, it gives a lot more reliability. You can get these engines really cheap for low miles, and they can hold a decent amount of boost as they sit. So yeah, the motor internally is pretty stock. I'm not doing anything crazy right now, but just has some simple stuff like balance shaft delete. I'm doing a PCV plate for a catch can setup. Doing EGR delete, just kind of basic stuff, make it run better, a little bit more efficient. Some of it's decently performance based. But onto the goodies. Today we're actually putting in Fab 9 tuning turbo cams. We just have a cast manifold right now, just a TO4E turbo. It's decent enough. I'm hopefully pushing anywhere from 10 to 15 PSI, maybe a little bit more than that. 550cc injectors. That's all I can really think of right now, performance-wise. Maybe some special intake goodies. But yeah, the swap itself is pretty easy. There's a couple of things that you need, like a timing cover, oil pan, valve cover. A lot of the stuff, the swap is really common on the 2.3 motors in these cars because, I don't know, they're more, it's just more common, I guess. But all this stuff like transfers over from the 2.3, but since I'm doing a 2.0 to 2.5, it makes it a little bit more tricky for me. But I mean, this swap is so commonly done, it's pretty easy. So like I said, we're gonna be doing the cams today. It seems like a pretty easy job. I don't know, I can probably get it done, but first I need to clean off that mess over there, and then I don't know, just kind of prep the motor a bit, take off the manifold. Fuel rail needs to come off even though there's no injectors in it. Yeah, that's about it. Do not lose this when you are timing your motor. This is extremely important. I've seen so many people fucking lose these things, and it is like really big issue because when you use the timing pegs and then you go to take it out and you've got parts everywhere and everything because you were timing the motor, you need this, your stock timing peg cover thingy. Okay, so now that the bench area is kind of cleaned up, don't mind all that right there, but we can kind of get started. I like laying out the cam caps in order. So like these two would go right here. These two would go right in front of those, you know, kind of keep it all organized and shit. So let's get started. So we need to take off the manifold and the fuel rail, which really easy. I don't even have bolts on the manifold right now. Just studs, and then fuel rail without injectors. I just like keeping everything together, just a couple of bolts. So yep. So turbo and manifold are off, sitting right there, and then fuel rail's off. Pretty easy. I'd suggest, like, if you guys are ever going to do any engine work or really any big project on your cars, thread the bolts back in. It saves you so much time. I mean, those are PCV bolts right there. Intake manifold, fuel rail. I mean, like, it's just nice to know, you know, I've got thermostat, all that stuff. All right, so now that the motor's ready, and everything, and before we get into this mess, we need to go get some garage juice. So let's get to it. Brakes. Midwest life, baby. Oh, this definitely looks Midwest. Okay, so now we have the garage juice. It's time to get started on the cams. Okay, so just a simple rundown of what this is gonna look like. First we can take this off. Okay, so first we need to take off this chain guide tensioner, which in return releases this chain guide right here. And then that gives us, you know, some room to take off the chain. And then if you look at the cams, right here we have a 6-sided, I don't know, like part on the cam where we can put a wrench on, and then we need to release these cam sprockets, and then we can start taking them out. These 2 bolts right here, they're just 10 mils, nothing special. What the hell? Oof. Oh, geez, that's not good. Okay, looks like it still works fine. So anyways, now that that is off, pull this timing guide out a little bit. It sits in here like this, but it's rested up against this little kind of edge on the engine block. So pull it out a bit, and it'll swing back. That loosens every timing chain. Now keep in mind, your engine needs to be timed before you do this. So this engine has been timed for weeks. I've already had this thing timed for a very long time. So I pulled off the crank pulley and the timing cover. So set these 2 off to the side, and now your timing chain can be
child. Anyway, so
there's the timing chain. Set this off to the side as well. Now I am going to be using the same timing chain and guides and tensioner and everything, just because this engine literally has like 50,000 miles on it. It's nothing too crazy, so I feel like it can take it. But if it was anything higher than that, say like 100,000 miles, it's probably a good idea just to do it while you're in there. It makes it easier while the motor's out of the car. So as you can see, the tensioner's out, the guide is out, timing chain is off. When you guys are taking these sprockets off, what you want to do is you hold your wrench in this little area right here, and then these 2 bolts are 21 millimeters. So I'm just using a breaker. Where'd it go? Breaker bar with a 21 millimeter. Hold that right there. Take these off. Make sure you hold that pretty tight, because I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter if you're replacing the cams, but if you have all the pressure on the back of here, so say like you're not holding this pretty tight, all that pressure is going to be right here, and so those cams could break right there, which could be a pretty big issue if you're just doing, I don't know, say you're replacing one of your cam buckets right there, and then you still need to use the stock cams. That could be an issue for you. So make sure you're holding that pretty tight. Okay, so now we're just gonna take off these sprockets really quick. Put that right there. Hold that, and then take your, there we go, that easy. Take your, and then do the same with this one as well. Oh, come on. That one is a lot tighter. Jeez. Okay, so I ended up getting this one loose off camera. I just had to put a little bit more muscle into it. So these bolts are loose. I'll get these sprockets off really quick, and we'll move on. Okay, so the sprockets are off. Now it's time to remove the cam caps. I really don't know how I'm gonna set up the camera so you can see the top of the motor. Maybe I could like set up on this ledge. I don't know, we'll see. Okay, so the cam cap bolts are just a 10 mil, nothing special. So I think the pattern I'm just gonna start out with is outside, 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 and then just do repeat for the inside. just gonna break them loose right now, and then from there we'll take them all the way out. So let's get started. Okay, so now that all those are loose, I'm just gonna do one round, hitting them with the impact. Just kind of, what in the world was that? I'm gonna keep the same bolts in the same cam caps, just to be safe. I mean, I don't know, I just wanna kind of keep them all organized and everything. There's a piece of hair on the cam. I thought it was cracked or something. Next, we have to take out this plate, which I know this is the VVT solenoid. I don't know what this is. So I think for now, I'm just gonna take out these 3 bolts and see how it goes from there. Okay, so a little update. I did some work off camera. Though this plate that was right here, it was just the 3 bolts. I didn't end up having to take out these. I just had to take out these 3 black bolts. But anyways, I got them all laid out, same bolts and the same cam caps and everything. Timing chain, guide, tensioner, all right there, all laid out. So now we can get to putting the new cams in. Okay, so just to clarify here, the cams are Fab 9 tuning, forced induction cams, or AKA turbo cams. So this is what we're dealing with here. The lobes are a lot bigger compared to the old cams. I mean, you can kind of see the size of those right there compared to the size of these right here. So we have our intake cam right here, and then our exhaust cam right here. Same with, you know, cam caps, VVT, sprocket, exhaust socket, all of it. I'm going to be using the stock, like the same hardware and everything, just because, like I said, this motor only has like 50,000 miles on it. So I'm not going to do anything crazy like ARP cam bolts or, you know, anything like that. Also, I just wanted to show that Fab 9 tuning actually gives you assembly grease with it. So I think what I'm going to do before I do anything is just grease these up. Same with the cams, just kind of any point where it touches anything, give it some grease, and then we'll slap them in. Okay, so just to show you guys, quick update. I greased up where the cams touch right here. I greased up the rings around the cams where the cam caps go, a little bit on the lobes. You can never go wrong with grease. It just helps out the motor. I mean, it goes away when you start it up. But, I mean, don't over grease it. I mean, because you could put a bunch of grease. This one has a little much on it, but it doesn't hurt it. I mean, it's just a good thing to do, so. All right, so all of the cam caps are on, greased up. I think all we have left for mounting the cams is put on this plate, and then we need to obviously torque them down and get everything in there, so let's get to it. Okay, so the cam cap bolts get torqued to 15 foot-pounds. So first what I think I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna get them snug down with the impact, and then I'll probably do 10 foot-pounds, and then kind of, you know, go back and forth between them. So I'll do the outside bolt, then the inside bolt, and then do 15 foot-pounds next. So it seems like a good idea to me to kind of get them all even. So yeah, that's what I'll be doing. So that's pretty snug on the exhaust side. So now let's do the intake side. That's the intake side done too. So I think I'm gonna try to tighten them down a bit more with the ratchet, and then I'll move on to the torque wrench, just because the caps aren't seated all the way yet. So if I can get them seated all the way down and then do 15 foot-pounds, I think that might be a better idea. So yeah, that's what we'll do. is do the inside caps first and then move outside, just so that way it kind of sandwiches it in between. So, yep. Okay, and that's the intake side done. I feel pretty confident with how tight they are and, you know, being even and everything. So I think what's next is I'll torque them to 10 foot-pounds and then 15 foot-pounds right after that. So they all get even. All right, 10 foot-pounds, let's go. Okay, that's 10. Now we'll move up to 15. And let's get started with that. So we'll start off on the exhaust side and then we'll go do intake next. Okay, that's 15 foot-pounds for all the cam cap bolts. So I think what I'm gonna do next is put on this plate, which I think is also 15 foot-pounds. I'll have to double check. But yeah, let's get started on that. Wrong way. So there's 3 bolts for this one. So I think what I'm gonna do is start out with the center bolt, just get it kind of snug, and then we'll do the outside bolts. All right, let me double check that 15 foot-pounds real quick. Okay, so it is 15 foot-pounds. And so I'm just gonna get that torque down really quick. I'm not too worried about doing 10 pounds and then 15. I'm just gonna do the center bolt and then I'll do the outside bolts. All right, those are all torqued down. So the sprockets are a bit more tricky getting those put on. So you're supposed to have a friction washer on the exhaust sprocket, but I looked everywhere on the stock cams and the bolts and the sprockets and could not find anything. And so I'm just gonna do it how they did it and not run a friction washer. I don't know if that's gonna be a really dumb idea. I guess we'll see when my motor blows, if it does. So let's get those sprockets on. Oh God. So the sprockets get torqued to 50 foot-pounds, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get them pretty tight, but still to the point where they could spin. And then I'm gonna get the cams in time and then put the timing chain on and everything. So that way, and then once everything's on, I'll torque everything to spec. So that way everything can kind of get tension in there. You'll see here in a minute what I mean, but that's kind of the process. That's what I saw other people do. And so that's what I'm gonna do. We'll start with the intake sprocket, aka the VVT socket, sprocket, not socket. It's been a long day. Well, that's pretty snug in there. Put that in there. I don't like the way this is threading. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna swap the bolts just in case they're a different thread pitch. I highly doubt they are, but just to be careful, we'll try that out. This one seems to be the same way. Kind of has me worried, but I think I'm just gonna, I don't know, maybe the threads are a bit dirty inside those cams. If I just try to, I'll be real careful here so we don't bring out the tap and die set. God, that would suck. If I'm being honest, that kind of has me worried now. That seems a little tight, but I'll try to bring it in with the impact a little bit, see if that changes it. Okay, seems like those threads just might have been a bit dirty. Not too worried about it now. Nothing broke. Didn't have to bring out the tap and die set, so I say we're good to go. Like I said, I'm just gonna get that pretty snug, not too tight yet. So that way I can still have that little bit of adjustment when I put the chain on. Okay, now I think the next move is to try to adjust those cams so I can get the timing plate back in. So that way I just know that the cams are in time. So yeah, that's what I'll do next. All right, the plate is in and it is pretty freely moving. So that should mean that the cams are in time, if I'm right. So now the next step, I think, is to get the timing chain back in place. Hey guys, so it's actually the next day. I don't know, I just took a little break last night, got really tired. This kind of pissed me off. So just to clarify where we left off. So I got both the sprockets on. They're both pretty loose. So what I'm gonna do is put the timing chain on, get the guide in and the tensioner. And then what that does is that way when the chain's on and then I put the tensioner on and release its tension, it puts tension in between these two sprockets. And then when they're pretty tight, I'll torque these down and everything. And then I think we're good to go. So I'll get to it. All right, so let's grab the chain. Now I didn't mark the chain, so it's probably gonna wear differently now. Like it's probably gonna wear in different spots and everything. I'm really not too worried about it. Maybe down the line when because I eventually do want to do springs on this motor. And so maybe down the line when I do springs, I'll swap out the chain and I don't know, do it a little bit more organized. But for now, it'll be fine. Yeah, do you kind of see that? So when I have the tensioner pretty tensioned down, there's basically no slack in the chain up here. But when it's off, since the cams are still pretty loose, it gives it a bit of adjustment. And since the cams are in time and everything, all I have to do is get this on there, get that chain tensioned, and put the tensioner in, and then torque these down, and it should be fine. So with the tensioner, it's a bit tricky. So you have this is the actual tensioner, and then you have this little plastic guide. Now in there, if I can get that focused, you have that little like locking pin thing. What I've seen people use is just like a little pick, and they'll kind of pull that back so that way that the plastic piece can compress too. And then when you leave that pick in there, and then you put the tensioner on the motor and then pull the pick out and it'll tension. Okay, so as you guys can see, that pin is pulled back, the tensioner is down all the way. Okay, so I actually did that off camera. It was pretty tricky. Just like I said, put the pick in there. Don't use the vise though. It didn't really help because then you can't hold it closed. It just tries to keep opening out. So I ended up just putting the pick in it and then just kind of muscling it in there, pushing it up, and then it'll kind of tension itself, and then just get one bolt in and then the other one. But anyways, the tensioner's in, the guide's in. As you can see, the chain is pretty tight. And so now that that is there, we can torque these bolts on the cams, and then I think these are 15 foot-pounds. I'll have to double check, but I think that's what there are. So okay, so we need to torque the cams at 50 foot-pounds, but to start out, I think I'm gonna do about 25 on each, just that way, I don't know, kind of keep it safe. All right, there's 25 on that one. All right, so there's 25. The plate can still move pretty freely back here. So that's what I like to see. Now we'll just move right up to 50. All right, there's 50. All right, so it looks like everything's in time. I have these torqued down. I still need to torque down the guide, or the tensioner, I mean. That's not too hard, but as you can see, there's a little bit of play in the chain, but that's kind of what you want, just a little bit. The cam plate is back here, can still move freely, and so that means that the slots in these cams are perfectly timed up. Yeah, I know the motor's at top dead center, because not only do I have that timing peg in, but I also have this
thing that locked up the flywheel, so it couldn't move at all. So I think we're all in time. Everything seems good. So yeah, I'll just torque that down really quick and then we'll be done.
All right, guys, so the cams are done. The engines all put back together. I think that's all, so see you guys next time.
Y'all better like and subscribe. Woo, to me out.